So I believe that we're going to name this the Shoot Straight channel. Um, Basically, it's just us coming together as men and talking about the things that are truly wearing on us, the things that we don't normally talk about or normally give a lot of conversation about and try to understand. Um, One of the recent things that I ran into was um, the difference between judgment and feedback and how it applies and what it applies to and why it's so different and how it can impact you or anybody moving forward. This is Trey. Introduce yourself, Trey.
Trey Maxwell, the son of Tim Maxwell.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And my name is Tim Maxwell. Just so happens, um, in our presence is a young man named Tucker Maxwell. Um, he's just listening and learning from his dad and grandpa. So, moving forward, um, what I wanted to talk about was an interesting subject that came up over the last 3 or 4 days, and that was judgment and feedback and the difference thereof, and if you're qualified, and when you become qualified to do which one, um, and how that looks for you as you go through your life. So how do you view judgment and feedback, and how does it pertain to you?
I think judgment is when you're holding something against somebody, and feedback would be trying to help somebody through whatever situation that they're going through.
Yeah, and judgment. I don't think we tend to know the hearts of the individuals that we're judging. I think we just feel an emotion, and through emotion we respond to whatever it is that pops up for us. And as an example given to me one time, it's similar to pouring alcohol on your on a wound. So, and when I talk about feedback, feedback is actually the piece that um, that can get to you. Feedback is based on how somebody perceives you, or how you're presenting yourself. And through feedback, you can have a moment to feel like you're being judged. But if you actually trust the individual and you actually care about what they have to say, is it more feedback or is it judgment?
More feedback if you trust the person, because you're ensuring they have your best interest, and if they're not going to hold it against you later down the road, their true intentions are wanting to help you and wanting you to grow.
All right. Yeah. So in feedback, it's does it sting when you're given the feedback, and if it applies, great. If it doesn't apply, then shake it off and keep moving. It's not meant for you. But too many times we get hung up, right? It's happened in our lives multitudes of times where we get hung up in what somebody said about us or what somebody thought about us, and we end up putting way too much time and energy into that thought of somebody or what they said. And the only way to necessarily get out of that is to go talk to the individual. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's not going to fix itself until you're able to have the real conversation that says, "Hey, what did you mean by that? How did you come to that conclusion, or whatever it might be," rather than just turning and walking off, and everybody thinks there's no issues, but then to find out in 2 or 3 days or 2 or 3 months or even 2 or 3 years that there was a major issue, and it could have been solved with 5 seconds of uncomfort.
Mm-hmm. I definitely have that happen in my day to day, and being more vigilant of it throughout the coming weeks and whatnot, and identifying it instead of letting it go and then it festering into something a few hours later, a few days later. I definitely notice that I need to just get in that uncomfortable area and address it, and then it's over with. You ain't got to worry about it, think about it, nothing for the coming however long.
Right.
And it helps build that rapport with the person that you initially had the problem with, where you know later down the road that if something comes up, you've already kind of started that rapport with them where you can say, no, they didn't mean it like that, or, hey, just wanted to clarify real quick, what'd you mean? And it just gets easier and easier where it's not as uncomfortable as much later down the road.
Absolutely. You know, and that's, it's not, truly, if there's somebody that fits in your circle, or you have in your circle, surely they're not just there to hurt your feelings. You know, they're not there to just trounce and make you as uncomfortable as you can be. They truly care. They may have something intelligent to say. We don't lend ourselves to listening to it because in a world that we live in right now, it's like everybody's against me. Or at least that's the lie that we keep telling ourselves, is that, oh my God, everybody don't like me. I thought he was my friend, and look what he said. You know, so when we truly get to the intimate part of a relationship, the word intimacy actually says, into me I see, or you see, and you can't really get vulnerable with anybody until you start asking questions. You got to get a little bit uncomfortable to actually have that conversation that says, hey man, this is how that bothered me.
And I think it doesn't apply for everybody. If you truly care about the person, then you need to do that. If it's just a one-off person and then you're never going to see him again, then what does it matter, in my opinion? But I think just the fact that you're opening up your heart to allow others to see in, that's what the world needs. More of the world needs. Kind of lost that throughout all the years of what's going on in the world, and yeah.
Sure. And it's absolutely easy for everybody to judge because they're looking through their rose-colored glasses at what's going on. They don't know what's truly happening with you. They just know what they see on the surface. So it's easy for people to sit back and judge, especially as judges, right? So most of the time when this really affects us or hold us back is because we're judges. Mm-hmm. We're good at sitting back and judging other people and going, I don't want anybody judging me, so I'm not going to become vulnerable enough to put myself out there to be judged. So I think of it like team roping or playing basketball or racing or whatever. It's like, if you're never going to put yourself out there to be judged, who are you to be judging? Right. So how does it get uncomfortable, and how do you become intimate with certain people to open yourself up for feedback, not so much judgment, right? And in church we heard, that we're called on to judge. That's one of the things that we're asked to do over and over again in the Bible. But at the end of the day, it also says you have to be qualified to do such a thing. You feel about that?
I definitely think that I understand that you need to be qualified to guide others through their walk with God or anything like that. But also there's an aspect of going through it yourself and just trying to help somebody else through their walk. I get what they're saying within the church of make sure you're on the straight and narrow before you start helping righteously judge people and helping them understand what it looks like, what they need to be doing, we all struggle and we all backslide, whatever you want to call it, but we're all working towards the bigger picture. And yeah,
Yeah, we're gonna screw up. We're gonna do things that ain't gonna be acceptable. But it's definitely it comes to a point where it's like, do you acknowledge that you screwed that up? Do you acknowledge that by judging me, you incorrectly judged me, and now you've done something that's bothering or hurting me? Do you acknowledge it? And do you understand that forgiveness piece in it? You know, and that's where a lot of people won't recognize. As a matter of fact, most times when you challenge somebody based on how they judged you or what you heard, most times people will deny that they even happened. You know, because they don't want to deal with the conflict that's involved. And it's like, if you don't want to deal with the conflict involved, then why are you out there judging people? Why do you at least go out there and give them a fair shake, you know?
yeah,
Because we see it everywhere. It's constant in our lives. It's constant. I mean, through society, television, radio, it doesn't matter. There's people judging everywhere, right? And there's people making statements that are like, where in the hell did you get that information? Because unless you were there, you cannot say that. And if your comments start with, well, my friend or this guy or something like that said so, you probably want to validate that before you start letting that stuff fly. Because I know myself, I've felt prey to, oh, well, this guy said so, so it's got to be true. Only to find out that, well, it was partially true.
mm-hmm.
So, and we see it everywhere constantly, right? So it's, how do you get to, like, I want to be better in that department of not so much judging people, but giving people feedback to help them. How would you move forward with either or? You know, if you're going to judge people, that's cool. That's on you. If you're going to move to giving feedback, how would that look for you?
I just had an example of it this morning on Facebook. There was a post about a blessing box around the corner that people load canned food in, dried goods, whatever, books, money, could be anything, non-perishable. And all the comments were people commenting about, oh, I saw a guy riding around at the other blessing box taking everything out of it every single day. They're stripping it. And I just sit back and think, like, who are you to judge what that person that is pulling out of that box needs or what they're doing with it, whether or not they're giving it to another family that doesn't have a vehicle, and just try and mesh the point that they're missing and the grace that, or the goodness that they're doing, trying to mesh it all together and say, hey, you don't know what's going on. Like, if you're going to give with an open hand, because I don't remember the saying that you had said what is it, when you give?
Mm-hmm.
When God walks out?
Oh, pride and humility. When pride walks in, God walks out.
Yeah. But if you're going to give, just give with your all and let it be. Like, don't think about what they're doing with it or anything like that. And I said on that post, I fall, like, I do the same thing. I try and catch myself immediately, but I do it in other aspects where I want to help people with things I'm capable of helping them with, whether it be working on cars, all this, whatever it is, yard work. And then I go back, and when they ask again and again and again, and I keep saying yes, but I start growing resentment towards them. But it's like, no, I wanted to give in the first place. I can't close my fist and shut that off.
Right.
I don't know. That's how I look at it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I fell prey to it myself. I was actually working at a food bank, loading boxes and cars and stuff like that. And there was Escalades and Mercedes and all these different high-end cars coming through. And for 'em, I was having a challenge with it because I was like, wow. And I had to actually go talk to the food bank director and was like, I need some help. And they were like, yeah, Tim, you just have no idea what they're going through. You don't know what anybody's going through. So give with the open heart, and don't judge, because you just never know. And we've been, in our family and our life, we've been through some things, and some people know and some people don't know, but we've surely been judged based on what people think, not what they actually know. If people knew our background, my background from the time I was a kid to now, nothing would make sense. But to the people that do know me, they know where I come from, and it ain't what everybody thinks it is. There's people that surely only know a short portion of your story and automatically put you in a category that you don't belong in, at least by what you know, not based off what they know. And it's sad sometimes because you get judged and you get categorized, right? You automatically get shoved into a hole, and you don't even get an opportunity to talk about it, and so it's truly it's better to, in my opinion, it's better to give somebody feedback based off of what they see than it is to judge people ignorantly,
I think relating it back to yourself as well is helpful, especially when you're giving feedback publicly on a forum that nobody knows you. If you come on the forum and start going off like you're holier than thou, then they're automatically gonna look at you like, who is this guy? Like, get out of here. But when you relate it back to yourself and put yourself on that playing field of, I do the same thing, but I'm working on it, then it kind of helps the viewer of, okay, this guy is not who we, like, holier than thou, and he's working on himself. So
right. Yeah.
I think that's gotten me farther when I do ever talk to somebody about something and I relate myself to it and tell my side, like what I've gone through. That helps them with whatever they're going through.
Sure. Yeah, I have an empathy for people, especially people that are trying.
Mm-hmm.
It's sometimes you have to qualify it that way and be like, look, I'm not trying to judge you or anything, but here's some things that I'm noticing, and it might be something for me. That's about the time that it transfers over to feedback versus judgment. It's easy to judge people. It's easy to look at a certain situation and by the mind's eye, what you're seeing, you already know the story. There's a lot of cops that may have got killed. There may be a lot of people that got taken out or shot because somebody judged a situation without knowing the whole story.
Right.
And it's sad, but it's true. And it's not just cops. I'm sure it's probably everywhere. It's just knowing that there's people out there judging people for what they have, don't have, who they are, who they're not, so on and so forth. And we do it every single day, right? It's celebrities or politicians or whatever. We're constantly judging from the seat in our living room or the seat in our car or whatever the case may be, but we don't really know everything that's going on to make a judgment, right? And that's sad, but at the same time, we all do it, and we're all guilty for doing it. But
Yep.
one of the things I try to govern myself by is I wasn't there. You know, that's my filter is, was you there? No, I wasn't there. Can you speak to that intelligently? No. No, not necessarily. So, but truly try very hard with the judging piece. The feedback piece, going into that section of this conversation, um, feedback is truly just that. It's just giving feedback on a situation that you see or hear or are involved in, and um, people can view you differently. People can hear you differently. People can take you differently. And are you open to feedback? And that probably is a very uh, courteous question to ask someone, you know. So if I was to hear you speak and heard you say something, probably if I was going to give you feedback, it would probably start with, hey, are you open to a little bit of feedback? Or, hey, are you open to talking about that for a minute? Only to lighten the mood a little bit and just have a conversation.
Right. And that feedback is definitely easier to receive from somebody you love or care about than a random stranger off the streets. I can take a random person's feedback and turn it into something that it isn't really quick, but that's all part of working on yourself and trying to be better every day.
Sure. Sure. I'd much rather have somebody's feedback than a judgment, because the feedback I can, like I said earlier, I can say, thank you very much, and either do something about it or not. Right? I mean, everything doesn't deserve a reaction. But if somebody said, "Hey, man, uh, you were kind of an ass to us when we were trying to walk out the door. Thank you very much. I apologize if that happened, you know, and move on about my day." But somebody walking up and be like, "Oh, I think you're a this and that and all this," is like, whoa, now we got defensive issues going on.
And it goes back to, like you said, the alcohol. If you want to explain that metaphor, pouring it on your arm, if it stings, the words that they say come out of your mouth sting, then you have something in that you own. But if you pour it on your arm and the words come out of their mouth and there's nothing, then you don't have any ownership in whatever they said.
Sure.
I think is an amazing metaphor because it explains it perfectly.
Yeah. Normally either through judgment or through feedback, I've noticed that if I get spun, it's probably because you hit some type of nerve somewhere, and I got to deal with that. And
Yep.
it's not always fun to deal with it, because our defense mechanisms go straight to, you don't know me. You know, how many times have you heard people say, "Well, you don't know me. Who are you to judge me?" You know, and it's like, well, I must have hit a nerve.
Yeah.
You know, I must have struck something, because you got super defensive super fast. And that's why it's important to kind of break that ice with, hey, are you open to a little bit of feedback? You know, anything that says, hey, I just want to have a conversation. Because just about anything else, it can turn into something way more than it needed to be. But truly, I'm not gonna walk up to just some dude on the street and be like, "Hey, you want some feedback?" You know, like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah.
Unless it's ridiculous, you know, then I'm gonna have a conversation. But for the most part, I'm gonna be good with it. So, do you got anything else to share with our listeners as far as judgment or feedback? And really, folks, we understand that, you know, we can go way deeper, we can get way more broad, we can get way in depth on these conversations about feedback and judgment, and we're definitely open for listening to what you have to say and your feedback. Um, we're open to it. Keep in mind, we're new. We ain't pros. We ain't been doing this for 35 years, and even the pros got problems. So be gentle on the judge wheel. So
I'm excited for what's to come of the podcast.
yeah.
I've always, the last probably 5 years, dreamed of a YouTube channel for me and my kids, and to start and go over working on equipment, farming, gardening, just everyday life stuff. And you starting this, I think, is definitely going to help push me into fulfilling what I want to do. So
Yeah,
pretty awesome. Get used to being on the camera and on the microphone right now.
Yeah, I don't feel like it's weird. You know, I think of it as this is what God's called me to do, is just reach out to more people and be open, be honest, take the feedback. If I can help somebody, help somebody. If I can be a platform for people to stand on and have a conversation, or hey, I just want to get some stuff off my chest. I just want to have a general conversation, get a little vulnerable, right? I mean, part of the reason that we are so judgmental, or we're scared of being judged, is because of the vulnerability. At some point in time, we got vulnerable with somebody, and they used it against whatever we said. They used it against us.
Mm-hmm.
And normally, I can't speak for the ladies, but I know for the men, it normally makes us clam right back up again. And it's like, well, I'm not going to get vulnerable with anybody because they do that. And it's like, I'm good. And it's bad because it happens in our closest relationships, you know, our wives or fiancés or girlfriends or whatever, and our children and grandchildren. It happens as well. But the reality of it is that being vulnerable, it sucks, because you're letting people see inside of you. But it's truly beautiful once you start doing it, especially with the right people, and allowing for them to give you feedback, for you to grow into the person that you can be, not that you are, because you're trying to actually grow into something bigger. And God's got way more in store for you. You know, we take that judgment and we kind of lock ourselves up to where we're not moving no more, we're not growing no more, we're not doing anything anymore, because we're scared of getting hurt again or bothered or whatever that might look like. So just a little something I was processing while you were talking. So for that, you good?
I think so.
I think so. Well, with that being said, I thank you all for spending time with us. I appreciate you tuning in. Of course, once again, it's called Shoot Straight, and we're just trying to reach more people. Let them have a platform to talk on, say what they got to say, get some information, get some knowledge, hopefully share some experiences to where, you know, you don't feel like you're all alone. And if you do, feel free to reach out. I thank you all very much for your time, and we'll talk with you later.